Today, I want to talk to you all about college visits and what I think is one of the most exciting parts of the entire college process. Um, so, let's talk about when you do a college visit, what it should entail, and maybe some of the extras that you should be thinking about in terms of making these plans. So, in terms of when you do college visits, let's start there. It's perfectly fine to start really anytime that you are traveling and near a college town, a place that just might be interesting to see. Those are what I kind of call the drive-bys, the checking it out from afar type approach. But those types of visits could be done anytime your child is in high school. And sometimes those are just great ways to kind of ease into the whole process of really digging into what the list of colleges is going to ultimately be. By the time students get to junior year, even towards the end of sophomore year, it's time to really start thinking a little bit more about more formal college visits. And what do I mean by that? So, at colleges and universities, anytime you plan to make a visit, they offer what we call an information session, which is an info session led by a person who works in the admissions office, typically one of the professional admissions officers, who is going to talk about the process and how it is handled at that particular school and highlight some of the key features of the university that they really want to make sure they're marketing at this particular time. Then there's usually an accompanying student-led tour around campus. So the difference is it is often a student who's guiding the tour, answering questions from a much more student-centered perspective. So you get kind of the whole marketing piece, corporate design from the admissions office professional, but then also a student perspective from the student tour guide, who absolutely will be trained by the admissions office to hit the highlights, but it is still going to have a little bit of a different feel coming from a student's perspective. So those are the basics. But before you even get to campus, I think it's important to do a couple of things. One is your child, your student should be doing research, trying to understand first and foremost what it is that's even appealing to them about the particular school, and hopefully they can articulate to you exactly some of the reasons why they'd like to go visit, to see these things in person, to learn more, those kinds of things. What you can also do on the front end is look for other ways to sort of expand upon the visit. So if it's a place that a student is really, really excited about and really interested in, trying to find out things like, can you visit a specific department? So in a large university, can you visit the School of Engineering or the School of Nursing, something that's going to give it a much more specific feel than just taking the overall admissions tour? Can you sit in on a class? Can you eat in the dining hall? Can you visit a residence hall? Lots of questions just to kind of try to figure out ahead of time, because sometimes they are add-ons or something else you need to plan for beyond just the basics of the tour and the information session. And they are certainly opportunities to dig a little deeper into the culture of the campus, obviously academics and things like that, but really trying to get a better understanding of the general vibe on a college campus. The other thing that I think is really important is to do some things that I call off script. Just walk around campus a little bit on your own after the tour or even before the tour. Eat in the local area or go to a coffee shop or something like that. So you're in a part of town that students typically frequent. So you start to get a sense of what it's like in the off-campus environment, because I think that's a really important piece of this puzzle as students are determining where they want to be for this period of their lives. It's also a great idea to perhaps pick up a school newspaper or any other publications that they might be offering for free. It's just a glimpse into what is maybe newsworthy on campus at the time. So it adds another layer to that vibe and things like that. Also, To the extent that you're comfortable doing so, talk to other students on campus who are not paid tour guides, who are just there either studying in the library or on the quad or something like that, just to try to get a sense of what is their perspective, what attracted them to the school in the first place, what are maybe some of the things that they wish were different about the school. Then, having said all this, when all of this is said and done and the questions have been asked, you've been on a tour, you've seen things, I think some follow-up thoughts and perspective are important to keep in mind. One is, don't let a bad tour guide ruin an entire college's opportunity. And what I mean by that is there are varying degrees of tour guides and their level of expertise, or their level of engagement, I should say. And quite frankly, sometimes if they don't have similar interest to your child, they may not feel that connection. But I think it's really important to help keep that in perspective for our children, that, this is just one person representing the college on this particular day. Doesn't necessarily mean the college as a whole is not a fit. Also, don't let bad weather ruin a tour. As I sit here, it's pouring down rain and gloomy outside my window, and I understand that those factors and elements can certainly put a damper on a visit, but it is not, every day is not going to be sunny anyway, or warm, or whatever the case may be that the student is really looking for in this process. So again, trying to help level set with your child to remind them of some of those perspectives. In terms of follow-up and things like that, I encourage students to take notes to the extent that they're willing to, but they can do it on their phone. Just jot down a few things that they hear when they're on these tours, so that A, they can remember it. B, it might come in handy down the road if they have to answer supplemental questions that relate to their level of interest in the particular school. So just having a few little, even bullet points of things that they learn, I think is really important. I think it's really great to have a conversation in the car as a follow-up. What did you think? What were some of the highlights? Doesn't have to happen immediately. Sometimes our kids need a little break from the inundation of thinking about the school and all of those things. But, trying to get some perspective, trying to get them talking about it. And as parents, we know our children really well. So hearing their side of the story, and then maybe us sharing some of the things that we picked up on, I think can be really helpful in just processing about the school in general. Just a side tip for parents, please don't take over the tour. Please do not ask all of the questions in the information session. This should be a very student-driven process. And if you can encourage your child ahead of time to ask some questions, maybe think ahead about what some of those questions are. Certainly, I can provide some help and guidance in that area if you're interested, but thinking about what are the things that are most meaningful to your child and helping them figure out what are those questions that can be asked to get those answers. But again, putting the ownership in their hands, because that's really important in this process in general. And you don't want to leave the admissions office with them thinking, well, that's a great parent who has a lot of really good questions, but you're not the one who they're going to be deciding whether or not to admit down the road. Otherwise, try to have fun with it. Also, know that there are reluctant students out there, and if your child is one of them, sometimes you do have to kind of drag them kicking and screaming into all of this, but oftentimes once the process gets rolling, they tend to enjoy it. But also don't force it. If it's really not coming together and they are not engaged and really looking forward to visiting colleges, they may need a little bit more time. But we can certainly, again, talk about that. My staff is here to help guide you through all of these ins and outs of the college process. And if there's anything we can answer for you, let us know.